Just when you thought there would be an episode of Discography Discussion without Dan.
That's ridiculous. I'm not sure what you were thinking.
I'm not sure what anyone was thinking.
Well, I just got done listening to the newest episode, and I really enjoyed it. But me being the opinionated person that I am, just felt like I needed to throw a few things on there.
20 minutes in, that episode is up, and I get a text of, I need to record a rebuttal right now.
I don't know about a rebuttal. I'm two beers in, so
Oh, here it comes. That explains everything.
That's where we're at. Yeah, so I just listened to the new episode, and I enjoyed it. For the most part, I thought it was really cool how we did two bands and all that. I wanted to talk about Atomship a little bit.
Yeah, you're a big fan of Atomship. I hope I caught at least half of your own opinion about it.
A little bit. It's weird too that you would say that you think Aliens is the best song, or you think that I would think that Aliens is the best song. But I mean, it's completely fact. It is the best song.
Why do you say that?
The reason I say Aliens is the best song on the Crash 47 is because it's very comparable to Mothra in a lot of ways, in that it is a slow build up, which essentially, you start with the rock band that you've been listening to throughout the record. And before you really, before you hit the end of the song, we're in totally different territory. We are in the band pushing their extremity to the limit. Just making a song that absolutely breaks down in such a ridiculous, horrendously great fashion. And you would think, listening to some of the other singles on the CD, that the band wouldn't really be pulling off stuff like that. And they are, because they have a drummer that's clearly better than the band that he's in.
Clearly better than most bands. Right.
I mean, he's almost sounds bored on some of the slower songs. He's just got really complex beats on songs that, and it's not even that they don't match up. I mean, he makes them work. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it just sounds like maybe he's bored. Like he's just trying to put as much crap in there as he can to keep himself occupied, because it's clear that this guy could go out and be a metal drummer like right now.
Chad Kent has done, and while I can't cite a specific name of a group, he does a lot of studio work. He does a lot of hired gun. And
yeah, I could see that. If you're good at something, don't do it for free.
The words that get tossed around amongst drummers is interdependence, the ability to each of your limbs function as their own device, and he has it mastered, or is at least capable of depicting it as if he has it mastered.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I really think that he's definitely got the chops. So it's interesting to hear a drummer like that on a record like the Crash 47, which is good in its own right. I mean, the lyrics are spot on. The song pace for the most, like the song's pace for the most part, are great. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of dynamics, and the record just kind of goes all over the place, and that's not a bad thing. And I can almost see why the record wasn't commercially successful, because in the sense that, like, it's an extremely talented band, but I don't think that the average target audience is really going to pick up on that.
I think I made the comment that the lyrics had to have been written by a psychopath. And when I sat back for a minute and thought about it after I said it, a lot of the music on that record is like a psychotic break happening, or it's like an anxiety attack. It starts off low and it just gets worse and worse. And when you think it's going to get better, they start playing as fast as they possibly can. And just even Aliens at the very end, you hear Joey Culver just kind of let out a sighing scream.
Yeah, it just sounds great. Yeah, fits. It's weird too, that you'd have that extreme of music without like more extreme vocals. But that's okay. Like, I mean, it really works here. It sounds more like, what a normal person would sound like having a psychotic break. And the lyrics are just spot on. I kind of chuckled a little bit whenever you and Buddy were talking about the song Withered, and how he says, "There's a girl in my bedroom, but don't you worry, she's not breathing." I always interpreted that, less as like murder, suicide, and more of just like that he's in his room alone looking at a photograph. Uh,
Maybe he has a
that's
magazine he's not supposed to have, if you know what I mean.
well, I don't know about all that, but I don't really get that vibe off of the song.
No.
I think it's just a song about being lonely, and yeah, it's just funny. It's just funny the interpretation that you guys came up with on that is definitely much more disturbing than what I had actually picked up from listening to the album. But I thought that was cool, and that's a great song. Withered, being one of the slower songs. Even though I'll go to bat for anybody and say that Aliens is not only one of the best songs ever written, but Aliens is clearly the standout cut on the record. And I know a lot of people want to say Mothra, and I like Mothra, but Mothra is just very, it's full of just random crap until you get to the end. It's repetitive lyrics, and the buildup is effective, but I don't think it's as well done as it was done on Aliens. Um, and it's weird hearing Mothra that early in the record. Like you get Day of Days, and then you immediately go into Mothra, and it's like, whoa, wait, what am I listening to? So I think the pace fails a little bit in the early part of the album, but really picks up towards the end.
Now, since I've got you, I'm going to call you out and say, why is it that you like Atomship, but you do not like Watership Down?
99% of it is the vocals.
You just don't like Derek Pardo?
I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy. He wrote some great lyrics. Clearly had an influence on the songwriting of the band, but vocally, I just don't think he's there, man. When he's singing, he sounds like he's having an anxiety attack,
Which is supposed to be the reason why he didn't tour with them and why he wasn't on the record.
Right. I mean, they pretty much, as far as I know, they hired a guy to sing on the record.
Yeah, it was Joey Culver.
Yeah, and he was great. I mean, just fantastic. He was in another band too. I don't remember what they were called, but one of the songs on their album sounded a little Atomship-y, and I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, the vocals were just not there on the self-released stuff, and I had the displeasure of hearing it after the fact, like hearing it after I'd heard, better versions of these songs. So there was really no way for me to really appreciate the original. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have continued checking out the band if I hadn't heard the better stuff later, or earlier. Like if that had been my first introduction to the band, I would have been like, I don't know about it. But
did you take time to listen to Death Therapy?
What's that?
Did you take time to listen to Death Therapy?
Oh yeah, I was on the Death Therapy train ever since I heard The Lie. So you guys were saying that The Lie was not a good first single to release because it created a false expectation for the band.
That was definitely Buddy's opinion.
Well, you said it too. It's recorded, it's documented.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean, to me, I think The Lie was a good lead-off single because my understanding is because I listened to a podcast with Jason Wisdom on it recently, and he was saying that they wrote The Lie. That was like the first Death Therapy song, and so it makes more sense that song was more quote metal than what the rest of the album was, because The Lie more or less was the band. It was kind of like the blueprint for what the band was going to be like, at least at that time. So I think what it was is he sat down with his bass and he wrote this song called The Lie, and he had the last band that he was in. Actually, he was in another band called Solomers before that, where he sang, but he might have played bass on it too. But it was metal, it was death metal, and so I think the fact that The Lie has a very metal foundation to it, it totally makes sense in context of the history of the band and everything. And I thought it was relatively unique sound for somebody that had more or less played traditional metal or metalcore and before that. And I just think The Lie was a really good lead-off single because I think if the first single had been Slow Dancing with Death, I don't think the band would have gotten as much buzz generated about them as they did. I think if you're going to tell somebody, okay, Jason Wisdom from Become the Archetype is doing a new band and it's just him and another guy and they're playing like synthesized bass, like more of an industrial sound. I think I think those people are going to not be as excited about the band. So, you release something called The Lie, which I think is going to resonate with those Become the Archetype fans. I think that is the ideal single to release first. And sure, like Buddy said, of course it's a bait and switch. I mean, why wouldn't it be? I mean, most of music is a bait and switch. You have to do something to get people to check out your stuff.
Like I said, if it got your attention, then it did its job, and it was the perfect single.
It was a good single, and I really liked it. I like Slow Dancing with Death. I actually, I love the screaming on it because, I mean, really, the screaming throughout the record, I think, is great because it's kind of the only thing that keeps it from being at like a mid '90s, early '90s record.
Right.
It sounds like like Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails and maybe like old Fear Factory and stuff like that. And
Somebody
so,
definitely got the blender out on that one.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of influences going in there. And, Jason Wisdom even said, he's like, well, you got to think it sounds like the kind of music that I liked whenever I kind of stopped listening to new music. And it definitely sounds like that. And I really enjoyed the record for what it was. I mean, I liked the more melodic moments because I'm not used to hearing Jason Wisdom, sing. and I don't even know if that's him singing or not, but there is melodic vocal on the record, and I think that's really cool, and I think it sounds really great. I mean, and I can't say like as a metal fan that when I listened to it, I was like completely blown away. I had listened to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of interviews, and with Jason Wisdom saying that this is predominantly an industrial record. It's not going to sound like Become the Archetype or Solomers or anything. It's gonna be its own thing. And so when I listened to the record for the first time, I kind of went in there knowing that, and me and Buddy, I mean, we talked about this record, for days and days and days and days leading up to the release, how we thought it was going to be. And I think Buddy was looking for more of, 10 of The Lie, 10 versions of The Lie,
It's like Hollow Again all over again.
Right. And I wouldn't have been disappointed with that either. I mean, I think that would have sounded great. I think what we got is what we got. And, it's strange too that you have a experienced musician and a not so experienced musician. And I don't say like from their playing ability, but just from their like how many albums we've appeared on. I mean, Jason Wisdom was on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Becoming the Archetype albums, and then a 6th album with another band. And so, I mean, this guy's been recording music for a long time. But what I found refreshing about it was that it sounds like a new band. It doesn't necessarily sound like, okay, it's all these these industrial songs, but Jason Wisdom screaming over it.
Right.
The songs sound pretty handcrafted, and I think it really works for him. I agree with Buddy that it does kind of like the dynamics are almost too extreme in the sense that some of the songs go from being a very metal sounding to being kind of danceable, which is a little bit different. It's not something that I normally encounter. So I thought, I don't know, I had kind of mixed feelings at first, but over the past month or so, listening to it off and on, I really kind of get an impression that that this was sincere. This was trying to be something very original, and I think in that respect, I think it succeeds in that.
I think it succeeds in being exactly what it is. It sounds like this person likes this type of music, or this is the vision they had in their head, and it just happens to be that he's a bass player, and in certain contexts, probably doesn't get to fully express his musical taste.
Right.
This would be a good example of what happens when you give the bass player complete control.
Right. Yeah, he does a really good job in that regard. I thought it was cool too that it was all bass driven. That was different. It wasn't something that I was really expecting, and I was kind of afraid that the record was going to be unmelodic. You know, like in the way that bass players tend to just like to thunder it out, and you know,
Like Bad
uh,
Mortification?
yeah, like I mean, just like that.
That is always the fear.
I was afraid that it was going to be, something like that. So I I was pleasantly surprised to hear the loops, that were in there, and the synthesizer and the singing, and it all came together really well. And I think it sounds really dark, and I think thematically it's still metal. Musically there's a lot of like industrial influences, maybe almost some like goth influences in there, and I really like the way it sounds most of the time. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for it, and I just want to listen to something more thrashy. But I think it succeeds on every level as far as what it was trying to accomplish. Um, and I feel bad that that there are fans that feel like they're ripped off. I didn't personally feel that way, but I totally understand that there might have been a minor amount of disappointment there with what we ended up getting. I thought the song with Andrew Schwab was really cool. "Slow Dancing with Death," or was it "Slow Dancing" or was it "Self Mind Dead"? I can't remember. There's so many songs about death. It was "Self Mind Dead" with Andrew Schwab. Sorry, and yeah, I thought that song sounded really cool, and it was good hearing his voice in there. Because yeah, like Buddy said, he's never actually been a guest singer on any albums throughout his entire career, and we'll definitely do a good treatment for Project 86 sometime in the future.
We need to do that
Um,
at Christmas time.
right, yeah, so we can talk about the Project 86 Christmas album.
Well, just so we can do it in season.
Yeah, I really liked the Belmont Family Curse. I thought that was a cool song, both of them, and
Wasn't expecting it, but when I read the name, I said, well, that sounds like exactly what it's going to be. And
yeah,
it was.
it gets very Nintendo-y towards the end of the record, and I really loved that, and I think those might actually be my favorite songs on the record because they just sound very different than kind of everything else on there, and it was a good ending. And this is not the first time Jason Wisdom has dabbled in the whole Nintendo idea. If you go on YouTube and you look up the video for "Becoming the Archetype: The Magnetic Sky," that's a really good video. It's like a kid playing an RPG, and the RPG members are the members of Becoming the Archetype, and it flashes from like the 8-bit depiction of the battles to like live action, low budget, the band fighting monsters with just hand axes and stuff, and that's extremely satisfying to watch. But yeah, the Storm Before the Calm by Death Therapy, totally awesome. I mean, totally awesome to listen to, unless you're just like a metal purist, and if your idea of good metal is just Rain and Blood, then you're probably right.
Unless it's Ghost.
I definitely like to branch out a little bit and go from there. And I don't want to talk about Ghost, man. Ghost freaks me out.
I'm serious, dude. I've been listening to it. I really do believe it is the most evil music ever produced.
Super evil.
I think it is.
I like it as a yeah. I definitely get kind of a Merciful Fate vibe from it. Like not necessarily like in the music itself, but just this whole like look at how evil and satanic we are.
We'll save that for when Josh is here and we have
Sure.
a few more beers.
Right. Sounds good to me. But yeah, so I just wanted to come on and do like a little short little if anybody actually cares what my opinion is about this kind of stuff. I just thought I would throw it out there. Not to take away from what you and Buddy did. I think if you just want to listen to that episode and that be it. I mean, that's perfectly everything is definitely covered. I don't necessarily think I've contributed anything new to the discussion, but I just wanted to throw something out there because my kids finally went to sleep and I'm bored. So that was where I was at.
Your rebuttal is going to drop on Tuesday. So what's your album of the week?
Oh, my album of the week. Oh, that's rough. Well, I've been listening to 2 albums concurrently, and they're ones that I picked up when I was in Indianapolis, which is Nile in Their Darkened Shrines, and I've also been listening to Opprobrium.
I think we decided it's Opprobrium.
No, I don't think that's how you pronounce it, though. Looking at the vinyl, it seems like Opprobrium. I don't know. It's really cool. It's on Relapse Records. The album's called Serpent Temptation, and it is awesome. It's just like old school 80s thrash.
Is that the Incubus that supposedly sent a cease and desist to Metallica, but that turned out to be completely fake?
I don't think so.
I just read this
all-
story today that
Tell me that story.
the 80s band Incubus had sent a cease and desist letter because Moth into the Flame is supposed to be ripping them off, but it's completely false. But that just
I
happened
don't know.
today.
I'll have to look into that.
It was funny to read. I was like, this doesn't look real. Oh, yeah, it really wasn't real.
Serpent Temptation was an album by Incubus. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure. No comment at the moment.
You getting psyched for American Standards on Friday?
Oh, yeah, dude. I can't wait to talk to them. I think it'll be good.
And on that note, this has been the first episode of Dan's Rebuttal. Because you can't have a discography discussion if you don't have Dan's opinion.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because that's the way he wants it.
All right, then.
All right, man. I'll see you on Friday.
All right, man. Sounds good. We will talk to American Standards on Friday.
Yes.
All right. I'll see you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Discography Discussion. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit DiscussMetal.com for all things discography discussion. And please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com.